I'm Wayne Morrow. This is Matter of Action. And today I have Christian Gomez. And it's kind of exciting here. We have a new series on anarchy, right?
That's right.
So I'm here to get filled in on what it is, when it starts, and we hear about it in the streets all the time, anarchists, Antifa, BLM, and all. What a great opportunity to sort of expose really what's going on. So, Christian, for the members out there and non-members, tell us a little bit about anarchy.
Well, you nailed it. The whole purpose of this new series, which is going to be called Anarchy America, is all about exposing who or what is behind these riots, naming names, organizations. But in so doing that, we're going to look at examples of how they've been inciting, and by they I mean revolutionaries, Marxists, communists, have been inciting the same strategy that we see unfolding in America's streets in countries overseas like Cuba, Chile, South Africa, and other places where the communists have used the same tactics that we see in our streets today.
So you're going to give us some historical examples? Is that what you're going to do?
So the original, the John Birch Society originally created a documentary back in 1965-66 that was called Anarchy USA, and that's the inspiration behind this. So this is our updated version to that old documentary. And in the original Anarchy USA, the documentary went through the 5 major stages or points, if you will, for communist revolution. So the film is divided into those 5 major points. And the first one was divide the people, create appearance of popular support, neutralize the opposition, precipitate mob violence, and create the semblance of revolution. And all of those 5 points, we are seeing them right now unfold before our very eyes in Minneapolis, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in Houston, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia. These things are unfolding throughout the entire country. And it's the same familiar faces that we see. We see the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. We see Workers' World Party. You know, the same Marxist-Leninist communist organizations working with BLM and Antifa.
So you get involved in who's behind the scenes and who's funding these organizations. You get that involved? Do you get to that level of detail?
We try to give as much information as we know. The information basically that the mainstream media is not providing. I mean, the very mainstream media that may sometimes interview one of those people, that may show the protests or any protest, and then they'll have the signs, and below the sign you see workers.org or Freedom Road Socialists, but they don't tell you, oh, this is the group that was behind it, or this is the group that organized this event, yet all the signs say, you know, Revolutionary Communist Party, RevCom, or, you know,
DSA?
Organizations, Democratic Socialists of America. There's just so many different organizations, and most of these organizations have different names. Most of them are just front organizations for certain key Marxist-Leninist parties and groups.
So they got that common goal with different names.
So I think of the common goal, which is revolution. They all talk about revolution, or they may use the word rebellion, but commonly
it's all
the
about
word
the revolution, right?
It's all about revolution.
So you mentioned about divide the people, right? So kind of give folks a little heads up. What is that? What do you cover in Divide the People?
Well, you know, Vladimir Lenin once said in one of his writings that for the revolution, for their revolution, the communist revolution, that it's important for them to look at the weakest link in society. Now, I'm paraphrasing Lenin, but to look for that rift in society, find that point of contention within the bourgeoisie, as he put it, right? And then whatever that contention is, that area of tension, whether it's racial, economic, class warfare, you pick on that and you constantly keep focusing, honing in on that, and showing how there's division and how there can't be unity in society. And by doing that, you end up dividing a segment of the population, whether it's African Americans in the U.S. or Black South Africans against white South Africans, or against the Mapuche of Chile against the European Spanish descent Chileans. You're always finding that group that is supposedly oppressed, and then you constantly tell them, "Oh, you're an oppressed people, you're an oppressed nation." So constantly getting at that, and the whole Black Lives Matter. The idea is that Black lives are being oppressed, and that their lives matter. So we have to protest for them and have this revolution in their name. Even though I don't hear of any average African Americans that want a country within America. Most of them are happy to be U.S. citizens, but these certain organizations and the leaders behind them, they're trying to tell these people, well, oh, you're oppressed, and what you need is so-called black liberation. And every time you see that phrase, whether it's black liberation or Arab liberation or Algerian liberation, all these organizations around the world that use the word liberation, they are always all red-starred, Marxist-Leninist, communist organizations.
What are they being liberated from? The oppressors?
Yeah, that's what they say. From the bosses and the capitalists, bourgeois, and all that gibberish nonsense they talk about.
So that kind of goes along with the Frankfurt School, then, doesn't it?
Yeah, all this really goes together when you look at the various intellectuals and academics that are promoting socialism and communism. You have the street agitators, you have the intellectuals, and you have members of academia, of course, the media and government. You have the deep state, really. Ultimately, it's the deep state. Ultimately, who was behind even Lenin's Bolshevik Revolution? We had Wall Street.
Yes.
We had certain financiers, and that's again we see Soros and other tax-exempt foundations, Rockefeller and so forth. Foundation that are behind the promotion, the Ford Foundation, even a lot of this radicalism in the streets, essentially.
Right. So what's the next point?
Well, the next point, of course, is creating the appearance of popular support. And the communists essentially do that when, for example, they may get an ad in the local rag, Chicago or New York Times newspaper, whatever city that they're in, and they'll say these are all the groups that are for civilian police accountability. And you look at the long list of groups that they'll put down. You start looking at the addresses or phone numbers. It's the same address or phone number as the Communist Party USA or Revcom or Workers' World Party, whatever. So a lot of times they mention their front organizations to make it seem like, look at all these groups, and it's really just like one group with 7 different fronts. So they do that too. And when they have these protests, if you look closely, it's always the same. It's always the same people, the same protesters that are moving from city to city protesting. And I'm not just talking about Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, who everyone knows, but there's people like Frank Chapman of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. He's always protesting in Chicago and Minneapolis and then in Milwaukee and Kenosha, Wisconsin. And it's these same key people. And you would think, oh, look, there's protests everywhere. Look, there's people here and people there. And it's like, wait, it's the same guy here. And then 2 days later, he's over here. I mean, there are people protesting everywhere, of course, but it's all being directed by the same organizations. And if you've ever been to any political rally, whether it's conservative or even liberal, what do? The organizers, they always hand out their signs because they want everyone to hold their signs to make it seem like, oh, you're all for Biden or you're all for Trump, whatever the event is. And they do the same thing here. There's people that do come out to these events and they give them out. They give them the signs. So you see these, African-American mothers carrying these signs for a group that they probably know nothing about, but the group is workers.org or Freedom Road Socialists. And they do this, all across the world, whatever the name of the communist organization is.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion to create that appearance that we have this movement behind us and we're unstoppable.
And sometimes these people get paid to do this, don't they?
Well, they probably do get paid, but in some cases, people are also being duped to do this stuff as well.
Yeah, somebody said to me, they don't realize they're marching to their own slavery.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Because if you look at history, like Cuba, for example, the same radicals who changed over the government to Castro were executed by Castro because they found out there wasn't a panacea of freedom. It was actually slavery, and they want to rebel against them. And he eliminated his competition. Hey, we got a minute or so left. So any other key things? Because this sounds exciting. And when is this going to be aired so the members can watch? What's it going to be called? Anarchy in America, right?
Anarchy in America, and we're looking to have it posted on our social media platforms, starting on YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff around October 5th. And the show, it just won't be me talking and saying all these things, but we're going to have every episode, we look to have at least one, maybe two guests we'll be interviewing who are sort of experts in their fields, who know about, who can speak with authority on certain subjects that we'll be addressing.
That's good. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
Five segments, right?
Well, no, it'll be an ongoing series, but the first 6 episodes 2 through 6, will really cover those main 5 points. But in episodes after that, we'll go back to those points as well,
Okay.
and of course we'll look at what's in the news, what's the big hot issue.
All right. Well, thank you. Hey, this is an exciting stuff. Look for information on jbs.org or thenewamerican.com. And Christian, this is fantastic. Looking forward to the new series and Anarchy in America. Until then, keep birching, and it's wonderful to be enlightened and informed, isn't it? Till next time, thank you.